tell me about creativity in your work. You know, how do you define creativity for yourself?
That's a very difficult question, because creativity, by its very nature, is not definable. It's one's own take on the subject. I use creativity, and I help my clients use creativity to think with the whole brain rather than just a bit of it. So it's not just the rational bit or the emotional bit, it's the whole thing.
Okay, so just to put it into context, tell me what your work is, first of all.
Well, it's an amalgam of things these days, but basically I'm a business coach. I help CEOs, entrepreneurs to develop their businesses, and I help them by coaching in traditional methods, but also with a particular style where I get people to think, as I say, with the whole brain, by using various different catalysts, one of which is poetry. The reason for that is that with the poetic method, you can reach deep down very, very quickly. People don't recognize this. People in business shy away from it, partly because of our education system. But I always quote Robert Frost, who said that poetry grabs life by the throat. In other words, with very few words, you can get to the essence, and then you word out.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I haven't heard of business coaches using poetry before, as you explain. So what led you to using poetry in coaching? What, you know, did you come from a literary background? You know, how was it that you decided to use poetry?
There were an amalgam of things, but one was a training course I went on 20 years ago where they used it. Another was my own experience using poetry to reach people very quickly with ideas and concepts, and that started in my school days. But one of the things that really got me was my daughter was teaching at a college in the States and went on a creative writing course and wrote a poem to me for my birthday, which absolutely knocked me out. But I took those different ingredients and realized how powerful this could be.
Yeah, that is very interesting. So would you say that you're, you know, in business, we talk about unique selling point. So would you say that when we create a unique selling point, you know, we're doing something different and we're adding value in a different way, is that creativity?
Yeah, it's creativity, certainly. And in a way, it doesn't matter whether people recognize it or not. One of the difficulties with using poetry is that if I advertise the fact that it's poetry, it's like putting up garlic to a vampire or kryptonite to Superman. People just think it's wacky. So I have to have a very carefully planned approach to it. And then afterwards, it's realized how powerful it can be. Comments like, I went to your workshop, I hated every minute of it, but it's changed my life. So that sort of comment is quite helpful.
That's an interesting comment. So how do you know that, you know, you're making more of an impact in using poetry compared with if you weren't using poetry?
That's the judgment of the individual who is part of the process, if you like, part of the plan. It's the results they get later, but it's like any coaching. It takes time for a realization, for what's the word I'm looking for a process to develop so that they use techniques different. I'm not saying that they have to sit down and write poetry every day. It's about opening up the mind and using the whole brain and looking at themselves and looking at their colleagues or the people they're working with in a different way.
Yes, and that's also, I think one of the myths surrounding creativity is that it's right brain. And I agree with you that it's not just about using one half of the brain, it's about using the whole brain.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. One of the workshops I do is helps teams, boards, if you like, boards of companies, to let themselves go and open up to each other, which creates a much higher level of trust. And if you get a higher level of trust in a team or a board, you get much more done.
Yeah, I think there's a strong association between creativity and trust, isn't there? You know, like the companies like Google and Apple, they pride themselves on creating environments where there's trust so that ideas can be generated, and there needs to be safety for those ideas to emerge.
Yeah, that's right.
But in the stage of evaluation, though, we do need to be critical because not all ideas are equally valuable. So when you're coaching, in your business coaching, you know, like maybe a lot of ideas may emerge. How do you coach your client to choose those or to select or to evaluate well? You know, all those creative ideas, not all of them are going to be useful.
That's something that they have, a process they have to go through. Business coaching is not like sports coaching. We don't tell people what to do. We just ask them daft questions, and it makes them think. And any technique that makes people think, again, to use the whole brain concept, makes them think in the round, fully, in all the directions, and ask themselves, why am I doing this? Is powerful in itself, and you don't know until later whether it's going to work. But that's business anyway. You've got a major purpose, you've got a vision of where you want to take the business, what you're going to do with it. But business is complex, it's not easy. So let's find a different way of going in rather than asking basic stuff and just looking at the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
The numbers, but when you get to the numbers, it's too late.
If there isn't trust in that coaching relationship, those questions may be ignored, you know, so you will think about a question that has been asked by somebody that you trust, perhaps, you know, whereas sometimes people will ask you questions and it's like they just, they don't seem to be as relevant.
Yes. Asking fierce questions, as you can put it, as one can put it, or as my conceit is, I like to think of myself as the fool in King Lear, the only one allowed to ask the king those difficult questions.
Yes, yeah, that is so interesting. So in terms of, you know, going forward, like evolving your approach, what I notice is that a lot of coaches, they create systems and to replicate what they're doing. Do you think that the creativity can continue to be generated when something becomes very systematic and routine, you know, like routine?
There is a time and place for routine as well as there is for the off-the-wall stuff. It's not necessarily knowing when, but feeling when.
David, in terms of like your approach and any kind of advice that you would give to new coaches, what would you recommend? You know, what if you found in your approach that you think really works and it's good advice? I know coaches don't give advice.
Well, you beat me to it, but I before I became a coach, I was a stockbroker for 30 years, an investment manager, so I gave a lot of advice. The advice one has to give right across the board, and it doesn't matter to whom it is listening extraordinarily carefully to what's going on around, what you're hearing, not necessarily making judgment, but just taking it in and letting your brain process it.
This myth about left brain and right brain, do you think that myth has been dispelled these days? You know,
well, as far as I understand it, there's been research done at various universities to prove that it's the whole brain, not just left and right. But it doesn't matter. I use left and right as a mnemonic. Just say we're talking about the rational, we're talking about the creative. You need both. There's that wonderful TED talk, the guy with the showing about the human brain and the difference between male brains and female brains. It's great fun, and it's great to remember it. But we all have brains that go all over the place. We have to use that rather than control it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. So what I've got, like, the main essence of what you said is, like, the importance of being holistic and using words, for example, poetry, to go really deep. I think words can be magical, can't they? There's a lot of magical ways with words.
Yeah, and you can make a poem out of 3 words. It's the power of individual words. We pack a lot of adjectives, subjunctives, all sorts of stuff into what we say, what we write. If we can distill it down, another wonderful quote I use is the jazz musician Charles Mingus, who says it's very easy to make the simple complicated. It's much harder to make the complicated simple. And if you do, that's creativity.
Yeah, getting right to the heart of things.